Where? Right here? Oh, look at that. Colin, you are a MacGyver. Thank you. Do you know who MacGyver is? Okay. You would enjoy it, I think, actually.
He's like he makes stuff. He like makes stuff out of stuff. Yeah, like everyday things he's heard.
Anybody have any tape by any chance?
I have
Awesome.
I don't know why you take Tylenol.
Do you? I got some scotch tape. With a cat hair.
Man. Mind if I go get a drink?
No.
Hey, if you want to get a instant, you can go to those wells.
All right. We're gonna try this now with this phone. Cool. All right. I'll just have to splice the two together somehow. All right. Listen up. So, some of you guys have flow charts and diagrams and Venn diagrams and that's awesome. You guys have. Raise your hand if you annotated. So most of you. Okay. You guys. So you prefer to do that then? Okay. This is tight. This is tight. Who kind of rewrote like a shorter summary? Okay. And then we have some picture drawers and highlighters. Okay. So we have these symptoms that are exhibited by most of the patients. If you guys need to, like, just treat this like a normal class, by the way. Just go to the bathroom if you need to. Don't worry about it. You guys have two questions at the bottom here that we're going to start with. So I want you guys just a minute individually. Are there any actually no, talk with a partner. Are there any similarities or connections between these individuals? And then what questions? So I want you guys to write down two questions probably. Write down what questions you would want to ask the families of these victims to try to solve this mystery. Yeah. Yeah. Any of these you guys can write down on any separate piece of paper. Not a problem. Okay. So people maybe have
That's why they collapse. I'm just asking.
Don't do the teacher thing, please.
When did they die?
I wrote it down, like, we wrote down who's.
It might not. Why do you think happening in the neighborhood? I was gonna say carbon.
You counted 8 too?
But no,
Right,
what's
that's
probably was Tylenol expired.
It does. All medications are really expired.
Mr. Zemper, does it say anything about the next one?
Does it?
Well, it does, but I mean, like, does it say anything about like never mind.
That's okay. No, you can think it
I'm
out.
just like thinking.
Yeah, good.
No, there's 7. Oh, true, there is an extra person, brother.
So what's his
Right.
His brother,
And then
his brother was the other side.
yeah, you were all like,
I sort of
maybe one of them died.
taking Tylenol to help cope with the loss. Do people take Tylenol to cope with that?
Sometimes they may have a stressful situation given the wording on it.
You realize that way.
I can see, but there's those preservatives where I can see.
Is it possible that the pain that they were experiencing was from
There's 7 deaths. But there's now, if you draw a triangle,
Oh, yeah.
this case.
Okay, listen up. Okay, you guys have some good questions to ask the family. Let's start with the first question on the page though. Are there any similarities? Somebody give me a similarity. Emma.
3 of them took Tylenol.
Alright, so 3 took Tylenol that we know of, right? Which is a brand name product. Tylenol. 3 took Tylenol. Okay. So
Same neighborhood.
same neighborhood. Not Liam Hood. Rapid death. All of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Zaynab, do you want to? I wrote it up there, but do you want to mention your?
Okay,
And
so-
David had the same light bulb actually.
In the main body of the writing,
Yep.
they describe 4 deaths, and
Yep.
then they say that 4 more deaths occurred. So that would mean 8 deaths. However, they say symptoms exhibited by most patients. That would imply that the last patient had different symptoms.
The last or just one of them?
By most patients. Who knows? We don't exactly know the symptoms
Correct.
of a single one, but
Correct.
we know that
Whoa.
but each one had a different thing.
Okay. So, and what's the title of this case study?
Cellular respirations.
Title thing.
Oh, the mystery of the 7 deaths.
Oh, so
Whoa.
mystery of 7 deaths. If you were to like go through and do a head count of the people that have died, there's actually 8 of them. Okay. So
The 12-year-old girl, she has a stuffy nose and a sore throat.
Yep.
And that's not one of the symptoms. It's dizzy.
Correct.
Confusion, headache.
she, yep. So that's true. That's also good to know. Musa.
If you think about it from the perspective of Tylenol, the brother who didn't take Tylenol also died of a heart attack, so maybe he's kind of irrelevant.
Okay. They say like prospective heart attack or seemingly a heart attack. Yep. And we don't know if he took Tylenol. They just found him collapsed on the kitchen floor. But Musa's on a decent thought path too. Okay. Because it doesn't say, right? So we can't assume that he did. Good. All right. So we have 3 took Tylenol, possibly more. We don't know yet. Same neighborhood. We do know that it says, and all of them, all of the patients. That's another term that implies that people were kind of brought to the hospital, right? Who? Okay, I'll let you guys go from there. The patients had a rapid death. Okay. Okay. Like several hours after symptoms arrived, is what it said. Okay. What are some questions that you guys? I'll take 3 or 4 total. What are some questions that you would want to ask friends and family to see? Maybe get a bigger picture here.
Do they all get medicine from the same?
Okay, so if you're gonna jump on the whole Tylenol business, was Tylenol from same pharmacy store? Is that good? All right, that's a good question. Justin.
Test the remaining Tylenol tablets to see if they were expired.
Yep. So test remaining. I don't know. Or something, right? Then give me one.
I wanted to know what the symptoms what symptoms were experienced while the family was mourning. The 2
The fiance and the brother.
because do people need to take Tylenol while mourning unless they have physical pain?
that's true. The only what are the reasons for taking Tylenol? Well, there's really two. Why would you take Tylenol? Dan?
Pain relief and overdosage.
There are two reasonable ways. And I only say that like not to pick on that, but like two things about that. Overdosage is not like a general reason to take Tylenol, but also Tylenol is a drug. It's acetaminophen. It's not the best way. You have to take a lot. It's a very safe drug. You would probably throw up and be sick with it before anything happens. So, pain, right? Headaches and physical pain, and little siblings. Anybody? Liquid Tylenol. What do you do, or what's another?
Stuffy nose, cough.
Some of it. That's got different stuff. Fever reducer. So Tylenol is a pain reliever and a fever reducer. Okay. So symptoms while mourning. Maybe they had fevers while they're mourning. I don't know. Any question? Oh, so yeah, conflict with other meds. That's definitely a possibility. And that would also be another reason to go to the pharmacist, right? Pharmacists might have history on who was buying what medications because some medications don't play well together. Count.
Tylenol expired.
Or expiration or tampering. Question you kind of go in that route for me. All right. Good. Thank you, Colin. Last one, Kate.
Probably not on the right track, but are there any carbon monoxide detectors?
Are there any carbon monoxide detectors? Are you asking me that? Oh, no, that's what you can ask them. Right. CO is carbon monoxide. That's a good question. I think carbon monoxide was mentioned the other day in this class, right? Yep. So yeah, I would ask the family. Possibly, you could ask them that for sure. That doesn't make any sense. Possibly, you could ask them. What might be something else with this, like carbon monoxide? If it's gonna be in a house, it's in the house, right? Is it gonna choose who it affects? No. So it would be like anybody in the house would be down. But it's not an unreasonable thing because it can affect different people. So good. You got some good questions. Okay. In your opinion, so there's no wrong answer. In your opinion, I'm on question 2. Are these 7 deaths? Here's that number again. We have 8. You count them. There's 8. But I'm only talking about 7. Which 7? We don't know yet. Are these 7 deaths connected? Why or why not? I want you guys to jot some thoughts down, please. And once you're done jotting down your thoughts, discuss with your group. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just finding lots
Really?
Like a minute.
Really? Dude. Oh man.
I'm thinking. I just probably say. I'm thinking. They went to one person in some place and they all ended up getting yeah.
I think that this illness is
Oh my
cellular respiratory, and B, they're all connected because
I'm going to. We just have to.
I thought you were gonna say something about the yeah, you are being very don't feel that's
So, considering this will solve people with I know. Oh, by the way,
Stole your pencil.
are these outliers? Cellular respiration. Cellular. You specified cellular respiration.
Actually, Alright. Alright, guys. Most of you, actually all of you have agreed actually that they're all connected, right? There's some kind of goofy theories or ideas. I've heard a couple people actually throwing a couple things out there. I'm not gonna say who or what that are spot on, but we'll get there. So some of you guys can continue on down your same path. Some of you need to explore a little bit more. If all in all, 7 or 8 people within a neighborhood all dying within 5 days, that's too much to be coincidence, right? We all agree on that? No?
Possibility.
Completely what?
The possibility isn't completely gone. While it's very unlikely, it's still possible.
maybe somebody poisoned them.
Ah, water can't bring issue. Okay. Yeah. Alright, listen up. Part 2. Autopsy report. Anybody not familiar with this term autopsy? Autopsy.
Cutting people up.
Cutting people open, cadavers specifically, to figure out cause of death. Okay? So autopsy report, short and sweet, 4 bullet points. Immediate cause of death was hypoxia, which is suffocation or lack of oxygen. Specifically, if you want to add this to the tissue, which might be sounding redundant, but I won't add that. So, immediate cause of death was hypoxia, suffocation, or lack of oxygen in the tissue. The tissue sections from the heart, lung, kidney, and liver all show massive cell death. Staining with specific dyes shows major mitochondrial damage within the affected tissue. And then oxygen levels in the patient's blood were approximately 110, here's a new unit for you, millimeters of mercury. Hg, mercury. 110 millimeters of mercury. Normal ranges, so like typical ranges, you and I, living, breathing, range between 75 and 100 millimeters of mercury. Okay? So, recalling your knowledge of organelle function, what function of the cells was interrupted in these patients, and could the loss of this function lead to death? Why or why not? Take a minute, jot that down. Number 1 is, you guys should be somewhat comfortable with that. 2 is where it gets a little bit interesting, because I want you guys to really try to come up with some discrepancies or some conflicts that you have with the autopsy report and the symptoms and like things from the story on the front page. We'll look at number 1 first. What processes might have been messed with? Can that cause the outcome? Oh. Yeah, hey, real quick, just so some of you guys aren't going down the a completely straight path. The millimeters of mercury is a unit of measurement, just like degrees Celsius is. Right? Nothing about mercury is in the blood. There's no mercury toxicity. Millimeters of mercury is it's a pressure thing. How much oxygen is dissolved in the blood. Yeah. Back in the day, you know how like old computers had mercury. So barometric pressure. It's like air pressure. So they used to use mercury as the liquor on like a thermometer, and it was how far air pressure could push up that level of mercury and how far in millimeters. Like 1 millimeter of mercury was a certain amount of pressure. It wasn't a temperature thing, but similar concept. Like the top of a mountain, lots of pressure. More commonly now we use them in cold atmospheres. Sea level. Mercury is very poisonous.
Is it worse than
Depends on how much of each. No, I saw that came with 7 HP, so it was like 4 gigabytes.
who's missing?
Yeah, who's
Suffocation or
Jot down any.
Okay, there must have been stages.
How many is that?
Look, very faint on my page. You can see it. This is not what the heck?
Okay. They obviously some really
Very faint. Very faint. I did not drop it. You dropped it. Very faint.
Okay, so cellular respiration was interrupted with this lack of oxygen because there are 2 aerobic processes shut down.
Was there a lack of oxygen?
Well,
no, there's too much oxygen.
The immediate cause of death was hypoxia.
Yep.
Right, but there's
And
concentration.
hypoxia is a lack of
And
oxygen.
so get your last bullet point.
But there was a concentration of oxygen.
So you know what I think might have happened? I think the mitochondria might have failed. Maybe no mitochondria. No, because there's still lots of oxygen.
Let me show you. Let me see Boomer.
No man, this is the secret of the market.
Okay. Let me see it for a second. See, this is Boomer. Look at this.
You broke it?
the same
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Whoever did. There.
Anaerobic. It's anaerobic. Lack of oxygen.
Okay.
Glucosis.
So, I've got people talking about the whole mitochondrial damage stuff, but there's a chicken and an egg argument there. Were the mitochondria damaged first, therefore causing the oxygen to not be used in the first place? Or what was, well, there was another scenario, right? Something caused the damage. Something caused the damage to the mitochondria first.
Too much.
Who's getting hung up on the fact that suffocation or lack of oxygen was the cause of death? Confirmed cause of death. But oxygen levels in the patient's blood was normal. Anybody getting hung up on this fact? Fact. Autopsy report. Let's see, a rookie clinician doing the autopsy. Huh? It was slightly high. It was a little bit higher. A little bit higher. But the point is, if hypoxia was cause of death, there should be no oxygen, right? Instead, there's more than. Okay, so that's a weird thing. Musa.
In some ways, it's kind of not weird because if the oxygen isn't being used, they'll die the same way as if they didn't have any oxygen.
Okay.
And then the levels will go up because the oxygen wasn't being used.
This is a surplus of oxygen, but something else is not making it move along. Okay, Zaynab?
Can we guarantee that the autopsy reports were accurate?
Was there like
Blood clots. All right, so given the data of the autopsy, were there any reports that seemed inconsistent with the immediate cause of death? We just kind of mentioned it, right? Hypoxia is the cause of death. Plenty of oxygen in the bloodstream still. Hypoxia means death by lack of oxygen. Plenty of oxygen in the bloodstream still. Weird. Right. So something was causing it to not get delivered. Okay. You guys look at part 3. This one gets a little bit more numerical. Okay. It's gonna be okay.
I haven't calculated.
Listen. Oh, you don't need to calculate anything. All right. Shh. Listen up. This one gets a little bit wordy too. So, detailed analysis of the damaged cells shows that ATP levels in the mitochondria was very low. ATP low, ATP is low. Levels of pyruvate and acetyl coenzyme A, the acetyl-CoA stuff, those were normal. You begin to suspect a malfunction of a specific cellular metabolic pathway, and so you request a more detailed analysis of the subcellular components of the affected cells from the autopsy. The levels of key metabolites or ingredients are reported below. So, this actually the last step is where you guys I meant to have you flip over the hypoxia sheet, so you guys can do that. Somebody in the group can look at that real quick, but also flip over the ETC color diagram, and you're going to be comparing the diagram of the electron transport chain with the data table full of metabolites on it.
Look, it says
Catch.
You guys can, that hypoxia sheet, you can annotate that if you want, or write on it, draw on it, whatever you want to do is fine.
No.
Upon reading.
usually.
Yeah, it is.
Because usually.
Oh,
we were-
boys.
The concentration was
Too little.
Do you have like that?
No, I just watch too much.
I know some of the. I didn't call you Pete.
No, I won't.
Alright.
What an
So. Was there like
Describe a role cellular respiration.
Hey, carbon monoxide poisoning.
Oh, I'm hypoxia sheet. You guys communicate well.
Cool.
It doesn't say anything about the
you killed her?
So you're giving the second column, the middle column is telling you what dead tables. The third column is what normal
That's not what it said.
They are the same molecules that drop off the building. You have a roadblock somewhere, that your idea. Right, track jam.
Sorry.
She's reading about the topic. You're gonna come across something. You gotta get
I'm gonna need some
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about, these were the notes, but I kind of realized them a little bit. The fact that you notice the highs, lows, and if we take a peek
I
at
just
this,
noticed that you're wearing a green shirt.
That's my dream color.
I know. But it's still like.
No, but like, isn't it weird that
It's like, actually, I no, it is that big.
you can tell that
Are there any yes. And give me a real answer.
Oh, NAD plus is not being made and NADH is not being used. That's great.
Genius me. So what would be
So what's your rating? Little names off.
I don't know. I know it's not. But it's probably not because I got 2 points off. Boy.
My gosh.
Yeah, mine's
I don't know.
I hate that song.
I was feeling when I was grade 5 on the old side.
That'll be all I hate is when three of
Yeah, right now, I have a T-minus.
NAD plus provides electrons. What is NAD plus? Oh, NADH is not being used. It's not being used in ETC. Why do you call them by both words?
Which fits your number. You're making an ADH.
Pyruvate is used.
See, I used to know.
Okay.
NADH was not being used in the ETC. That's why there was no NAD plus and lots of NADH.
Boom. Who says it figured out?
Yeah, I heard. All right, listen up. Okay, so glucose, pyruvate, those values, comfortable values, right? 99 or 100 for normal and patient levels, 27 to 25. So those values are not that far off. They're average. Okay. You guys all quickly noticed the NAD plus and the NADH, and I understand. Like in the notes, I didn't give full detail on what these particular molecules were. The video we watched, she described them as little batteries. And they get charged up. So NAD plus is like a dead battery. NADH is the charged battery. And NADHs get made during glycolysis and during the Krebs cycle. And then they get used, NADHs get used where? What cycle? ETC. So if you have glycolysis, and a lot of you guys correctly started thinking about like the mitochondria were damaged, but where does glycolysis happen? Outside the cytoplasm, outside the mitochondria, and it's anaerobic, right? So oxygen doesn't matter. So NADHs are still being made, at least with glycolysis. Glucose levels are normal, pyruvate levels are normal. That's the whole glycolysis part, right? So Musa says that NADHs were being made but not used, and they're not being used. The only place they're used is the ETC. So number 2, I'm going to skip one real quick. Are there any abnormalities in the levels? You got some highs and you have some lows with the NADHs. Develop a hypothesis really about which pathway, which specific pathway do you think is being affected right now? ETC. All in favor of ETC, raise your hand. All in favor of Krebs cycle, raise your hand, which is another aerobic. Nobody wants Krebs? All right. So most of you guys are saying ETC. You are correct with the ETC. The ETC cycle has been interrupted, and it is, as explained or shown on that diagram, NADH, something is keeping it from dropping off its electrons at the electron transfer. NADH is like an electron taxi cab, and for some reason, the passenger can't get out. It's locked in the car. Screaming, kicking. All right. So, if you guys, real quick, we're gonna jump to the back. Finish what you're writing. Then we're gonna jump over to part 4. Okay. So, some of you guys were kind of talking about the whole carbon monoxide thing, and that was what was described on the hypoxia sheet. And that is a very, very solid, good idea, because what carbon monoxide does is it sticks to the iron in your red blood cells. The iron in our red blood cells is what oxygen binds to when we breathe in. But carbon monoxide kind of like hip checks oxygen out of the way and takes its spot. Therefore, oxygen cannot attach to your hemoglobin. You can breathe in and out all you want, but your oxygen does no good. You just breathe it right back out. Miserable, right? Well, like until they start looking up the pace, not getting any oxygen. So, part 4. You are now convinced that you know the cause of death for these victims. It's not carbon monoxide. And you quickly report it back to the police, as this is a very dangerous situation. After realizing that the electron transport chain was no longer functioning, you started to suspect poisoning, and you ran a blood test, which I believe Justin mentioned the blood test at the beginning. Oh, you were talking about testing the Tylenol. That also would have done something. Testing it for various poisons that you knew affected the ETC. The test of all 7 patients came back positive for cyanide. Cyanide irreversibly, can't really undo it, irreversibly binds to cytochrome C oxidase, which is, find out exactly where this particular molecule binds and interrupts the whole process. It's called cytochrome C. They don't put the oxidase on it. And it prevents the transfer of electrons to oxygen, the final electron acceptor. So the point is you get the cyanide, it attaches to cytochrome C, and it blocks the electrons. So the electrons traffic jam in your electron transport chain, and then therefore your NADHs can't drop them off. So it's not that the electrons can't get out of NADH, it's that really there's nowhere for them to go and be dropped off that. Therefore, oxygen, the reason why there was so much oxygen, because it wasn't being used to bind to make the water at the end of the ETC.
Why didn't the autopsy
I don't know. You would think that they would, and in reality, they might have done. Again, this is based on true stories, which, as we know from film, movies, is often tweaked just a little bit. So, water poisoning, it could have been something like that, yeah. But in this case, it was not. So, cyanide was the cause. Number 4 on the questions for part 4 asks you to kind of make a possible complete solution. Where could they have been poisoned by cyanide? Could be water. Water. There's no mentioning of water in the story. Yeah, most people swallow a pill with water, right? But that could be a route to think about. What are some links? If you guys were to look back at our tiny list. Cyanide in the neighborhood. Cyanide causes rapid death. Cyanide in Tylenol. Any other ideas? Zena? No, just good question. Tylenol, the chemical, is acetaminophen. Different than aspirin. Works in a different way, but it still, lowers fevers, reduces pain. But no, it's not. It was Tylenol.
You said this was a murder?
Yeah.
Right? So this is just an idea. Maybe the parents had something to do with it because they bought the Tylenol, they gave it to the kid, they
Okay.
probably supplied. Well, wait, the family and the brother aren't connected, but I don't know.
7 people. So
Just a suggestion.
did we bring up were they all related in a family sort of way? I don't think
No.
that was last hour. The likelihood of that is pretty slim. Like neighborhood means different things for different people too, different cities and towns. But likelihood of all 7 people having a familial relationship is not too low. Yeah.
And they're all related.
Yeah.
And then there's like 3 other people, families.
Musa. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. Tonight I want you guys to look at those last 4 questions for part 4. Real quick. So yes, it's based on true story. It is a murder mystery. It is one that is actually still not solved. We don't know who did it. FBI does not know. 1982, Chicago neighborhood. You guys can look this up. Chicago Tylenol murder. You just put Tylenol. 1982. This was pre-tamper evidence seals. You guys all know what those are, right? Whether it's a little plastic thing you gotta peel off, or it's a foil thing on the top, inside of the lid. Those didn't used to be around. So 1982, somebody at some point in the Tylenol production and distribution laced some of the bottles with cyanide. And these people, the 7 deaths, it is 7 deaths. It was actually a 12-year-old girl. It actually was a fiance and a brother who were in mourning for the brother, the guy that supposedly died of a heart attack. He's the oddball. So he's the 8th, right? But this did actually happen, and they do not know who did it still. Still.
Couldn't it happen?
Nowhere in the Tylenol production does cyanide come into play. So somebody would have had to have carried cyanide into the production facility.
Maybe he put it there by accident. And that saved something else.
He just carries it in his pocket.
Maybe after